If you've been watching my channel recently, then you know I've been on a bit of a quest to find the world's greatest diode laser. Now this is the Xtool D1 by Makeblock, and they contacted me recently to see if I wanted to give it an evaluation. And while I didn't pay for it, they're not a sponsor of my channel, and that means I can say almost anything I want about this laser, good or bad. Might not surprise you to know I'm going to say good things, so let's get going. How's it going, everybody? Steve here, and welcome back to my shop. Now I have the Xtool D1 from Makeblock sitting behind me here, and I'll put the specs up the side. This is a 10-watt laser. Now this 10-watt module is made out of two 5-watt lasers that are integrated together into a single 10-watt beam, and that means it has lots of power. It also has a 32-bit microcontroller, pretty typical of these styles of lasers. Unlike a lot of these lasers, though, this one has full Wi-Fi support. So if you're using certainly the Makeblock software, you can connect to this laser over Wi-Fi and do anything you would as if you were connected with a USB cable. So that's a very nice feature. And the construction of this laser is good. It has real documentation, so we'll take a look at that as well. Anyway, what I'll do in this video is quickly take it out of the box. I'll show you what I did earlier here. Put it together. Now I won't go into a whole lot of detail because there's honestly 10 or 15 screws to put in here and this laser's together. But I'll walk you through some of the highlights there. And then we'll do the usual testing. I'll start with my usual dog photo on cardboard. That's always a good test. And walk through all the typical materials, and there's always some surprises at the end. Now this laser also has a rotary tool, comes with a rotary attachment, so I'll take a look at that as well, and we'll see how easy it is to plug that thing in and get it up and running and actually make an engraving on something round. So let's get going, and we'll start with some quick engraving. All right, so first thing you'll notice is the background has turned white, and that's because I painted my pegboard in between. So you'll see it in this video flip between black and white a couple of times, but don't worry about it. So first thing we need to do here is, like any diode laser, is we need to take everything out of the box and put it together. And in the case of the Xtool D1, it comes with certainly a nice manual, a sheet of stickers here that you can put anywhere. I tend not to bother, but the assembly guide, as you can see here, is well designed, very clear, and it makes it really simple to put this laser together. Now the laser itself, really 4 basic parts here, and they're all just these metal frames. Now at every corner there's a couple of screws. There's one on top which you can just turn in there, and I didn't turn these in initially very tight because I wanted to make sure that everything was squared up before I tighten everything down. Now in the front of the front corners, well, every corner really, there's two screws that screw into the end of the side piece, and you can see they're a little bit of a challenge to get in there because the alignment of these is very precise. It's not too bad though. This is the very first corner, so it was a bit more of a challenge. Now in the back, there's, in addition to those screws, there's this longer screw, and that screws into the belt adjuster. And the screw on the side, if you want to adjust the belt, you loosen that off and then tighten this longer screw I'm putting in right now, and tighten the belt or loosen the belt and then screw that in. Now on the x-axis, pretty much the same. There's those 2 flanges that stick up on the side rails, and you can just put those 2 screws into each end, and then there's a longer, again, belt adjuster on the left side of the laser. Next, we need to connect the belts on both sides, and they provide you with this shaft with a pulley on one end, and you just thread that in. There's a bearing on that side by the controller. And then the other side, you just slide this collar on and onto the stepper motor and then tighten it up. So it's pretty easy to get together once you get the frame in. The first thing we'll do here is we'll hook in the stepper motor, and you can see these connectors are nicely color coded. So there's a bright yellow one, and then you just plug it in there and stretch the cable down to the stepper motor and plug it in. And then the last thing is to put some zip ties in to conceal the belt in underneath the frame. And I really like how they did the belt, the cable handling here. It hides a lot of things. Next, we'll put in the red connector. That's the stepper motor for the x-axis, and this bigger connector, which you can see is a bit more of a challenge to get plugged in because it's in a bit of a tight spot. That is the laser power. And then down at the other end, plug the stepper motor in. The cables are not too tight here, which is nice. They're pretty well adjusted. Now on the x-axis, there's this dovetail, and you slide the laser module in. It's a really nice module, biggest one I've ever seen actually, from just a physical perspective. But plug the laser cable in there and just slide it onto the dovetail. Now it only has one adjustment screw, but that doesn't seem to matter. This is a really well thought out design. And once it's on there, it's really tight. Last thing, plug the power in and the USB cable, and we're pretty much ready to go. Now, I'll note that the cables here are well hidden on the side, and fire up the power, and as soon as you do that, you can see the crosshair where the laser is, and that is in itself a really nice feature. So there we go, it's assembled. Pretty much, I hit all the high spots here, but I put it together, even while I was recording, I put it together in half an hour. So it was pretty simple assembly. Anyway, let's move on here. So let's start with a little software here. And in this case, I'm using the Laserbox Basic software, which you can download from the Xtool site. This is the same software that Makeblock uses on their CO2 laser. So if you're familiar with that, you'll be right at home here. You can also use Lightburn. I won't show you in this video, just for in the fullness of time. We won't burn too much time, but it works the same. It connects the same as every other laser, and works quite well. I've used it, but I wanted to actually take advantage of the opportunity here to try a different piece of software. So what I'll do is I'll build my dog photo in this software, and you can see it starts out very large because this is the image that came right off my camera. So what I'll do is I'll resize it down to the normal size I use, and I can select the material for it. It's an engrave, but it's corrugated fiberboard, and you can see it selected the right settings here. And these settings I've tried, they actually work really well out of the box. Now, the last thing I want to do before I cut this out is I want to put a rectangle around it. That's a cut. So I'll stick this in here, and now we can zoom in a bit to get it about the right size. And if I pick up this thing, you can see it draws these alignment lines. So once you get across, that means it's centered in the image. And maybe I want to tighten this up a little bit. And again, I can drag it and put it back in the center. So now I do need to make sure that this is a cut line. So I'll select cut up here. And again, this is corrugated fiberboard. So it did a setting there, and now we're ready to go. And we can just shoot this over to the laser. I've connected to the laser box. So all I really have to do is hit this play button, and it will generate some G code for the laser, and you can see the image it's going to print. It shows you the time, and this time is actually pretty accurate. And if I want to frame the image to make sure that that I have it centered properly on my material, I can just hit this button here, and it will draw an outline. Now the laser module itself, and you'll see it in the video, has a nice crosshair on it. They draw it with a red dot laser, so you can use that for alignment. Now, if you're using the rotary attachment, and if you are, turn the power off, plug the rotary attachment in, and turn it back on just for safety reasons. But really all you need to do to enable it is you just click this button, and then this dog would be wrapped around a rotary attachment. I don't know what the cut line would do. We probably don't want to do that, but that's how you work the rotary attachment. So very, very simple operation with rotary. And once we're ready to go, we just hit the start button, and the laser will start. So we'll go over there and we'll see what it looks like. right, so I did quite a few samples here, and we'll just take a quick look. As usual, I did my dog in cardboard, and you can see it looks pretty good. I can see the lines in the floor. His detail around his eyes look great, and his collar, I can see the fur. A bit of a power versus speed sample here, and you can see actually the first, even with very low, or with the very low speed of 500 millimeters per minute, it actually cut through on these last four. But you can see the power looks good. Even where it cut through the burning around it, it looks really good. Now I could have changed the power here so the scale is a little better, but I try to keep close to the same settings all the time. Acrylic. So acrylic in translucent acrylic, you can see as usual, it looks pretty good. Almost all lasers do a great job on this stuff. MDF looks really nice. Probably the nicest one I've seen actually in MDF. So, you know, the design, I can actually feel a little bit of a engrave there, but a lot more engrave around the sliced word and the pi. And you can see the pi symbol is actually pretty clear there. Now in stainless steel, I actually did this twice. The first time, which is the one down below here, and if I can get it out of the light, I used the same power I did for the RA5, and you can see the results are about the same. And then I came back in and did another one, just about the same power, but a little slower, so that it has a little more time to hit the stainless steel. So either one actually looks pretty good. I just found the first one a little lighter than I was hoping, so I did it again. I always like to do a couple of things that are a little special, and in this case I just took a metal business card and engraved some QR codes on the back. It was just a scrap one, you can see. And these came out fantastic. Probably better than a CO2 laser could cut these, could engrave these actually. So yeah. Now, granted, it took 5 minutes to engrave this as opposed to 5 seconds with a CO2 laser, at least a 90-watt one. So takes quite a bit longer, but does a fantastic job. My cut test, as usual, in this case I did 100% power, 120 millimeters per minute, which is a little faster than I did on the previous laser, the longer RA5, but it is a 10-watt laser. It didn't cut through, but there's actually, if the camera can pick this up, there's actually a couple of spots here where it punched through the material after 3 passes. So odds are good one more pass would do it, whereas with the longer and some of the other 5-watt lasers, 12 passes wouldn't get through. And I did an edge cut here as well, so this is 1 pass. And you can see actually on the way, it cut this side first, and you can see it actually almost cut all the way through the first time, but then on the way back, it cut about halfway through, a little more than halfway through. So it really does a nice job cutting too. Last, since the Xtool D1 comes with a rotary tool, which is a really nice feature, and this rotary tool, incidentally, is the easiest rotary tool I've ever seen. You literally drop it down, plug it in, and tell the software you're using the rotary tool. Anyway, it did a pretty awesome job on just a piece of ABS pipe that I had sitting here, and you can see the engrave there is really good. So that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, this is just a fantastic laser from pretty much all angles. Now, on the ABS, by the way, before I forget, if you are doing round cutting on the rotary attachment, you will have to use the software that Makeblock provides. It's not a big deal. It actually works really well. In some aspects, I like it better than Lightburn, but you will just have to use it, and it's just a case of turning on a switch to say I'm actually working on something that's round, and it just magically works. So that's it. So now it's time to take a look at some of the things I really like about this laser and some things I didn't like quite as much. Now, I'll tell you in advance, the list of likes definitely outweighs the list of dislikes. That's a good thing, but I did try pretty hard to find things I really didn't like about this laser, and there just aren't that many, but we'll give it a shot. On the pro side, the documentation is great. It comes with a real manual with real documentation that describes with pictures in 7 or 8 different languages what you need to do, and that made the assembly of this laser really easy. The construction, as you can see, it's all built with metal channels, so there's no plastic that I can see anywhere on this laser. So, the construction is fantastic. So there's loads of power with this laser. This 10-watt laser gives you almost CO2 like cutting, not quite the same, but certainly the engraving. This versus a CO2 laser is virtually the same, both from a cut and performance perspective. The best focus system is sitting on this laser. That little metal machine that flops down and looks like a bottle opener, but it just makes a focus insanely easy. So it's definitely something that everyone else should be looking at if there isn't patents on this by Makeblock. The last thing on the list here, their software that now they come with they make available their own Makeblock software. And on first glance, you look at it and go, why would I ever want to use that if I have Lightburn? There are definitely things with this software that I was able to do that I would honestly struggle a bit with in Lightburn. So it's really geared towards new users, which is good because the learning curve is almost nothing. And if you are using their rotary attachment, which is also a nice feature, you really need to use this. I didn't even try to configure the rotary tool with Lightburn. I'm sure you can do it, but I just didn't bother. Now on the con side, again, there's not very many things here. I did find, and it's kind of a nitpick, the light shield around the laser that's supposed to protect your eyes. For some reason, I didn't find it protected as well as say the Affero Laser 2. They have a great light shield on theirs. It's hard to explain. You just have to see it, but in general, when you're working with the laser, there just seems to be blue light flying everywhere. I think the bulk of the dangerous part of the beam is not an issue, but it is disturbing, and you definitely want to wear goggles anytime this laser's on. Now, next on the list, it's a bit pricey, this laser. Now, that doesn't mean you're not getting value for your money. It just means if you're on a budget, and most of these lasers kind of top out in the $300-400 range. This one is a little higher than that. So, if you're looking for a budget laser, this isn't it. But by comparison, this laser does a whole lot more than the low-end lasers. Last on the list, and again, this is kind of a nitpick, the cable handling is still a bit wishy-washy. Certainly the power and the USB cable are in a great position, and Makeblock, thank you for that. But the cable that runs along the y-axis just kind of flops around, and honestly, in a laser, the price of this one, I'd kind of expect some kind of drag chain to keep that nice and neat, but it doesn't get in the way. It just looks a little sloppy. So anyway, there's my pros and cons, and we'll come down to some summary here. So now down to recommendation time. Would I recommend this laser? Short answer, absolutely in a second. This laser is by far the best laser I've seen in the diode space. I looked at quite a few of these lasers over the last little while and reviewed a handful of the ones I thought were the best ones. This one is top of the rank by far. So if you're starting maybe a small laser engraving business, or you just want a lot of power and high-end capability for home, this is the laser you want. Now, it does come with a bigger budget requirement, so you have to factor that in. But on the plus side, it also comes with some additional tooling like the rotary attachment and some really nice software, so you don't have to pay for Lightburn. I will probably use Lightburn on this laser, but but you don't have to. Their laser software is great, and it comes surprisingly with a lot of capability that is actually easier there than Lightburn. So anyway, consider picking one of these up if you're looking. I'll put an affiliate link down below. If you are interested in buying one, feel free to use that and help out the channel. With that, we'll wind the video down, but as usual, I'll put a video up on the side here. What I'll do is take you back to the LaserStorm 10 from PerGear. If you haven't seen that one, that's a good 10-watt comparison. And maybe another suitable comparison, although it's a 5-watt laser, is the Ferro Laser 2. So I'll link that one up in the other corner here. Anyway, with that, we'll wind the video down. So get out there and make your world, and I'll see you next time.